This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's pod, this show for the week of March 20th, 2023. And Phil, we made it to 150 episodes.
Wow.
How about that?
Pretty
I think
impressive.
we missed 1 week, I think.
Yeah,
that was like
I
a
think
couple
so.
months ago. And then there is a period of like 3 or 4 weeks at the very beginning that we didn't do a show for other reasons. But I think we've been pretty good. It's almost 3 years at this point.
I think next week is we hit 3 years. So
Now, I asked you this question a year ago. Did you think we were going to make it to 2 years? Now, did you think you were going to make it to 3 years? I knew last year we would probably make it to year number 3.
yeah, I was just going to say that after doing 2 years, I didn't see any reason we would stop.
Why
but-
should we stop? Absolutely. We're recording this on a Saturday night. I've got some trips going on. So if any news pops up on Sunday or Monday, and you get the show coming out on a Monday, you now know why. Anyway, this show, we're going to discuss new summer discounts announced for Walt Disney World Resort. And we find Phil's breaking point, which is a subject that we had, I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yep.
What it would take for you to get back. So I'm going to grill Phil. That's a rhyme. I didn't plan that one. Why he chose to pull the trigger. Plus our takes on attraction queues. And the top 3 things Phil's kids look forward to Disney. So if you weren't in Discord, we had a suggestion by one of the members as to ask your kids why they want to go back to Disney World. I'd be curious to see what my kids would say. But this is not a show about me. This is a show about Phil and his family and why they're going back to Disney World sometime this year. But first, before we get to all that fun discussion, we're going to find out what's going on in our Disney World. Phil, so take it away.
Yeah, so there was actually quite a bit of news. Some of it, bigger than others. So I tried to sort of group things together and try to hit on some of the high points. But if there's anything you want to sort of comment on, please chime in. If there's anything that you want to skip over, we'll skip over it. But recently, one of the big news is that they announced that there will be soft openings for TRON Light Cycle Run. I know several members on our Discord, especially TL Madden, who are going to be traveling down like the week before TRON opened, was like every day was like, do you think they'll have soft openings? What are they doing in this time after preview? Blah, blah, blah. So Disney did announce that they will have soft openings from March 20th through April 2nd. And they said during that time, it will use the virtual queue system and also have individual lightning lanes available for purchase. So it pretty much seems like standard operations for how it's going to be when it fully is open. We don't know like details as to like, is it going to be open the whole day, only certain hours? My guess is a lot of this will be using for sort of like load balancing and kind of figuring out the best way to get everyone through there and maybe figure out, are people that get the virtual queue for an early time? Are they waiting until evening to ride it at night and stuff like that? So sort of kind of figure out all the operational issues for how it's really going to work when it's open for real. But were you surprised by this news or caught off guard, or were you expecting it?
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, I wasn't really thinking about whether or not they would do it, but it makes sense to open early. I mean, I don't know if Disney's thinking that there's going to be monstrous crowds when it was supposed to be open for real. But this might allow some of the locals to come in a little bit early and kind of get it out of the way for the people that are planning trips to be there when it opened. They're not going to be crowded out by locals and press and bloggers. They're going to be able to get all their stuff out of their system at a time. So that kind of makes sense. It might soften the impact on the park itself. But I mean, the thing has been operational for so long, it just makes sense to just open it. Why
the D23 event is going on now, and Zach, friend of the show, is there. I think he said he got on 9 times tonight. So I think it's been so they're definitely pretty efficient with running it. So it's interesting though that they're having individual lightning lanes, so they're charging for during a soft open period. I thought that was kind of interesting. So I pretty much just open, I guess. And they also announced at the same time that once TRON comes on, we know obviously that'll be an individual lightning lane attraction. That Seven Dwarfs Mine Train will still be an individual lightning lane. So Magic Kingdom will go back to having 2 individual lightning lane attractions. So what are your thoughts on this? Like, how do you think that will impact, Genie Plus and stuff like that? And do you think Magic Kingdom will then have 3 when Tiana's Bayou Adventure opens, or will
That's
one
a
of them
good
go down to
question.
Genie Plus? So just kind of like, how does having 2 rides with that versus pushing one of them to Genie Plus impact things, you think?
I don't think there's going to be any major impact with Genie Plus. I think it's going to function just to say there's just another individual lightning lane over there, and it might somewhat impact downstream of the more popular rides where people are now online for Tron now too. So that might make, I mean, just like anything else, it's added capacity to the park. I think that's the only impact, and whatever impact that has on Genie Plus, it is what it is. I don't mind it being 2 ills in Magic Kingdom. The park's big enough for it. I don't really expect Mine Train to just say, oh, now we just get it on Genie Plus. I think you probably eventually get there, especially when Tiana. I don't think they're going to go to 3 in that park. That would make sense to me. So I would imagine Seven Dwarves goes on the Genie Plus, and then you'll have 2 attractions that you get to pay for.
Yep.
But who knows? Bob Iger might be like, no, we need to give something back to the people. So you can just spend $30 to get Genie Plus to get on this ride rather than just paying once to get on this ride, and that's it. Who knows?
Yeah. It'll also be interesting, I think, to see what it does to individual Lightning Lane demand for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Does it are people going to buy their individual Lightning Lane for Tron and the Genie Plus and the one for Mine Train, or will that demand go down a little bit, maybe lower the price for Mine Train compared to how it's been?
How are they setting pricing? Isn't it just based on reservation and busyness? Like it doesn't it? I haven't checked, but doesn't it correlate with Genie Plus cost or how it fluctuates? Like if Genie Plus cost goes up, the individual Lightning
it does, but like some of the individual Lightning Lane rides are cheaper than others. So like like Flight of Passage isn't as much as Rise and stuff like that.
Sure.
So will Seven Dwarfs Mine Train was one of the more expensive ones. Will it maybe go a little lower compared to Tron or whatever?
I don't think initially. I think if they're not selling out of that quite a bit, they might start lowering the price to get. I think they're going to find out how what the demand is. So I don't think they're going to change anything. And then if they're not selling out by the end of the day, obviously they're going to decrease it so they can. There's going to be a sweet spot where they get the most amount of money and the most amount of people buying it. Simple business stuff. That's my thing. I think the big thing would be when Tiana's comes out. I don't think, if I had to guess, I don't think they go to 3. I think they stick at 2.
And then speaking of Magic Kingdom and the end of the night there, we also know Happily Ever After is coming back on April 3rd. But cast members got an early preview of it, and they brought it back on March 14th, just a couple nights ago. As far as anyone could tell, there were basically no changes to the main show. Looked like some of the projections looked like, technology they replaced and upgraded, and certain things like the laser effects seemed a lot better and stuff. And then obviously they added the Main Street projections. So did you watch any of this where people were streaming it or anything like that? And are you planning on watching a stream of Happily Ever After, or are you going to wait until you can see it for yourself?
I watched clips of it. I didn't watch a full broadcast. I couldn't find one that night that was like really good. Mm-hmm. So therefore I kind of forgot about it the next day. I didn't watch it. I was just looking for images of some of the projections. And I'll wait till it gets open when somebody has a nice 4K camera and make it look good, and then I'll watch like a full production of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, similar thing. I guess I'll decide if I want to watch one or now that we do have a trip planned. Will I just wait? But yeah, same thing. I watched a couple kind of clips and just to get a sense of how the Main Street projections were. Some of them seemed a little bit more impactful than others, but definitely a nice addition, something new.
Yeah.
Disney also announced the timing of several meet and greets that are going to be coming to Walt Disney World. So either kind of things that had previously announced or some new ones. So they announced that Moana will be meeting in Animal Kingdom along Discovery River starting April 22nd, which is kind of interesting that she's going to be at Animal Kingdom when they're building the Moana Journey of Water in Epcot. Figment, which had been previously announced that a meet and greet was going to be coming to Epcot, it will be coming to the Imagination Pavilion, and the time frame is late summer. And one interesting thing is they mentioned the ability to hug him. So people are kind of wondering, like, well, what is it? Is it going to be, in the past they had a walk around character that people affectionately called Figzilla, or back in the day they had the one where it was more of a puppet that the Dreamfinder carried around and stuff. So I did see somebody report that it's not going to be Figzilla, but it's going to be like kind of Mickey or Donald size.
Okay.
So I don't know, but I guess we'll find out. But I thought that was interesting.
It's definitely not going to be a puppet. That's my prediction.
Yeah. They did announce that Mickey Mouse and Friends will have a new home at the Communicore Hall that's being built later this year. That'll happen.
Huh.
So that'll be open there.
Did we know anything about that prior?
Yeah, they did say with the when they updated the plans that's where, because they used to meet in the character place in like Communicore area, and they said they would be coming back. There would be a spot for them when they rebuilt Communicore. But yeah, so they announced that that'll be open later this year. They announced that Maribel from Encanto will be meeting at Magic Kingdom at the Fairy Tale Garden, which is currently where Merida meets on the side of the castle. That'll be starting this fall. And then I just added this in. The Toontown just opened today at Disneyland, or reopened, and they had a bunch of character meets, including Carabelle Cow and also Pete is meeting there as well. So it's interesting they have a Pete meet over there when they don't have Pete meeting at Pete's Silly Sideshow in Magic Kingdom. But I don't know, maybe if it goes well and there's demand for it, maybe they'll bring a meet for him to Magic Kingdom as well. So with all that news, I guess, what are your thoughts on, are you surprised by anything? Anything you kind of want to comment on? Which ones are you most excited for?
I feel bad about for Merida. She's getting booted from the park.
Yeah, I hope they put her somewhere. Maybe that she could be one of the rotating princesses at Fairy Tale Hall or something like that. I hope she's just not gone.
But we'll see. I like the meet and greet for Moana. I mean, I think that's cool. But I mean, I'm not racing or excited about any of these in particular. I'm trying to think what my kids would like. Another area to meet Mickey Mouse and Epcot would be pretty good, because at Animal Kingdom it's usually swamp, because that's usually like the only thing you can do there for meet and greets for the most part.
Yeah.
And the town hall meet and greet with it's not Sorcerer Mickey, it's Magician Mickey.
Yeah.
Right. That usually gets a very long line. And then so at Epcot, maybe that wasn't getting a super duper long line and allows you to meet Mickey Mouse and Friends. That's kind of cool, I think. I like that one.
I always like that one at the character spot, because they had, usually it was Mickey, Minnie, and Goofy, and you got to meet wait in one line and got to meet 3 characters. So hopefully they have a similar setup. Like
that's
that.
good.
It seemed kind of efficient. So, and I do think the Moana meeting at Animal Kingdom when they're building her attraction over at Epcot is interesting. I don't know if it's just to put her somewhere while that's not, is it that she's only there temporary and then she's going to move to Epcot, or is it getting people used to associating that character with Animal Kingdom if they're going to start building the Moana stuff at Dino Land, or
I don't think they're thinking,
or am I reading too much into it?
No, yeah. I mean, that's super fans are thinking that. I don't think Disney's thinking that far ahead, because I doubt they have plans. It's greenlit. So I think they just need to add more stuff to Animal Kingdom, and I think that's an easy way to do it.
Okay. There was also a series of news related to Epcot that came out. So obviously the Disney 100 celebration has started. They've had the kickoff over at Disneyland. And at the same time, they haven't really done anything at Walt Disney World because it's still been the 50th, but they've been winding that down. And you've seen a lot of photos of them removing, plaques and stuff like that. But they did announce that Epcot is going to be the host for the Disney 100 activities at Walt Disney World. And they indicated that it will be starting this spring. So sooner than later, we'll be seeing, things related to Disney 100 at Epcot, which is kind of interesting because we're still in the 40th anniversary year for Epcot, but I guess they're kind of phasing that out.
No one cares. No one at Disney cares.
But also they indicated in that time, the same tweet about that was that coming later this year will be the new nighttime show to Epcot. So obviously we know Epcot Forever is going to be starting on the April 4th as well. And there's sort of some people didn't know when the new show, like kind of the big show that's really replacing Harmonious, is going to come. Would it be this year? Would it roll into 2024? But from this tweet, it's going to be coming later this year in 2023. They added like a little concept art thing that didn't really show off too much, other than it was featuring a lot of fireworks and lights and didn't look like any big permanent barges. Everything we're hearing is that there definitely won't be any kind of permanent barges like Harmonious had. And they had a little blurb about it saying the show will feature an original composition and evocative selections from the Disney songbook, all woven together to remind us that we are more alike than different. So
always a good message to have at Epcot. I like it.
Yeah, and I think that's getting at right at the beginning what one thing that was missing from Harmonious, even for those of us that did like the show, was it didn't have that original song that kind of tied all the segments together. It felt like it was just one thing clip to another thing. So I think being right up front about that, I think is certainly a good news. So hopefully they take the best parts of a Harmonious and the best parts of Illumination and make a great show.
All right, to draw inspiration from our friend Matt Pato, before or after Halloween are we going to see this?
Whew. I'm going to be optimistic and say before. I think they might do it October 1st.
Okay. It's a good guess. I think it's going to showcase closer to the holiday season.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably right, but I'm trying to be optimistic. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely not going to be before our trip, and that's so it is what it is. But I'm really interested to see what it is, and I hope they kind of learned what worked well with Harmonious, but also learned what people didn't like about it, and kind of they've done well with Happily Ever After. It seems like they've done well with Wondrous Journeys over at Disneyland. So hopefully they kind of hit this one out of the park.
I hope so.
They also showed some new images for the new Communicore Plaza and Hall. And then there's some speculation about that some walkways might be opening in the middle of World Celebration soon.
Didn't we talk about this like 2 or 3 weeks ago? Didn't we mention they might open walkways?
We were wondering if they're going to do it. And then so Blog Mickey, I guess, was using some bioreconstruct images and found that they're kind of building walkways behind the walls. Mm-hmm. So it sort of looks like there'll be a way. I actually commented back. I was like, well, this is good because it's just going to kind of come closer to Spaceship Earth. So this way they'll be able to use both exits that come out of Project Tomorrow. I was like, well, this is certainly a good start that we're seeing some progress, but the big thing is going to be when you can really walk across from one side to the other.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, there's still a lot of dirt. That's going to be a while. So
absolutely.
So we'll hear. So I don't know. It's progress. It's nice to see a lot of news about Epcot. I'm interested to see what like the Disney 100 activities really are, like what they are. Is it going to be a big thing?
Activities. So that makes me think it's like, here's a couple park benches and some crayons, right? I mean, it's like some arts and crafts or something.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll update maybe some of the statues or something like that. I don't know. Probably be a lot of
add some more audio to those things. That's kind of a good idea. I like that.
Probably be merch and cupcakes and stuff like that. But we'll see. But so that'll do it for the news. Like I said, there's a lot of other little things, but I was trying to kind of hit on some of the big things. That'll take us on to our takes. And here I put a topic I think we've done in our top 3, but we haven't done our takes on this before, which is for ride queues. So which of the queues for attractions at Walt Disney World do we find overrated, properly rated, or underrated?
The world famous our takes. Yes. So am I going first?
Why don't you go first with your overrated one?
My overrated one is the Peter Pan queue, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the queue is better than the ride. I've always said the ride is overrated, right? I think I've said that for ever since I was recording Disney material, right? I think a queue is great, right? Like, don't get me wrong, it's really awesome queue. But the only part is the bedroom, right? That's awesome. The rest is just hallways. And when you compare that to so many other queues at the parks, it doesn't hold a candle to it, even though I really like the queue. But I think it's overrated.
Yep.
That's my
Yeah, it definitely got a lot of hype when they first redid it, and it was like, oh, we're changing it from just a bunch of switchbacks to having all these interactive elements and stuff like that. And it does, you can use the Play app, and there's things you can do in that too. So it's certainly an improvement over like just the plain queue that it used to be. But yeah, I think the hype built for it, and maybe it's for that reason that people are trying to justify waiting all that time for the ride.
I mean, this is before the turned part of your queue into like a pre-show like element, right?
Right.
So I mean, it's an older standard that they're going by. It's still nice, but I think people, like I said before, overrated. I think.
Yeah. So my overrated one is somewhat similar because it has different elements for people to do, but it's the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. I hear a lot of people talk about how they love it and their kids love like banging on all the drums and spinning things, and it's got that honey wall that you can wipe down that I feel is really gross because a million people are touching it and wiping it down.
All the glass there, yeah.
And I just feel like this has kind of the issue that also Peter Pan has and some other queues where there's the interactive elements where how do you handle it when the group in front of you is doing one of those interactive elements and there's that big gap in front of them? Do you just wait? Do you go by them? Do you give them a couple minutes or whatever? You skip them. So I think they'd always create some like awkward moments and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm glad they added something versus, again, just like the Peter Pan, the old style, just switchbacks. But I think sometimes people think a little too highly of that one. And it's, I'm fine to skip it as well. I'm happy when I don't have to wait in the queue for it.
I haven't been on that attraction in many years. Like, it's a ride that I can skip. So I have an issue with your overrating
Okay.
adventures. I don't think anybody ever rates this queue period.
Oh, really?
I
Because
mean,
I hear a lot of
I don't.
positive talk about it, and people like really love it with all the interactive elements and stuff like
I
that.
never.
So.
I mean, I never hear anybody voluntarily bring up this attraction, let alone this queue. The only time I hear people talk about Winnie the Pooh is either it's my brother-in-law's wife, who this is one of her favorite rides, and she talks about it when she's doing a trip report in our living room, or somebody mentions something about the ride, and then somebody makes a remark about it. So
Yeah.
I guess that's just obviously bias on my front because I don't hear anybody talking about it, so therefore I don't think it can be overrated. But if you're hearing about that, okay. So my properly rated ride queue for me is Rise of the Resistance. I mean, it's an excellent ride. The queue is absolutely amazing. It's the closest you can get to the Galactic Star Cruiser. You get good cast members in there. They play act. They terrify your children. They've done that every single time I've been on it. I really enjoy the experience. Luckily, I've never really had to wait on the actual long switchback portion of the queue because I've either paid for it or gotten the boarding group, or actually you've got me the boarding group when it still existed. And I really like the whole pre-show element. I think they've done a wonderful job, especially when you go into the hangar and you got the whole display and everything else like that with the stormtroopers. It's really good. So I don't think people overhype it. Everybody thinks it's amazing. It is truly amazing experience when you go through it. So I think it's definitely properly rated.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take. I have gotten stuck when the ride's gone down and been in the kind of the switchback part where there isn't as much to do, and it gets boring pretty quick.
Yeah.
So in some ways, that if you're not considering that element, it's almost overrated in some ways, or at least there's the potential for kind of not great experiences on it. But yeah, like as long as that doesn't happen, there's so many little details in it, even before you get to like the pre-show parts and stuff. So yeah, a really well done queue. My properly rated one is for Expedition Everest. Again, it's another one that people, it ranks very highly on, top queues at Walt Disney World. There's tons of details that Joe Rohde and his team put in there. And I just think everyone who rates it highly is accurate. I think it's just, there's not like a million interactive elements. There's not a million pre-shows or anything like that, but it's just, as a static thing, it really sets the stage well for what the ride is and kind of explaining what you're getting into it. And it just has a ton of details that are, fairly authentic to the inspiration for the ride and the land and stuff like that. So I just think it's, as far as, again, like the older style queues that don't have like pre-shows and stuff like that, it's sort of like the best example of it. And I think people view it that way. And so it's properly rated.
I think that as time goes on, if it hasn't happened right now, I think this queue might slip to the underrated category because it's a wonderful queue. I think we're right there. I don't hear much people talk about it because everybody's now talking about all the new attractions, all the other different rides that are coming in. This kind of slips down the argument a little bit. But this attraction and Kali River Rapids, I absolutely love the queues just from the decorations and the environment that you're in. A lot of them are mostly outdoors a little bit, so it's nice. You get a nice breeze in there. I think obviously Animal Kingdom is extremely well themed, and it carries over to these attractions.
Yep.
My underrated queue. This is probably 100% bias on my part, but for me, it's the Pirates of the Caribbean underrated queue. There's a couple things. The queue is absolutely just switchback and whatever, right? There's nothing fancy about it unless you go during. They used to do it Halloween, where they had the live actors like kind of sitting around there, that type of thing. So it's absolutely not interactive whatsoever. However, you've got classic music that's on a lot of soundtracks. I can't stop singing that song when I'm on there. I absolutely love it. The smells are really cool. It's dark and cool temperature wise in there. It's really great. And it's never really that long of a line either. They do a very good job loading and unloading that vehicle.
Yeah, it feels like you're always moving on that queue, that you're not like stuck for like 10 minutes or anything.
So I think they do an excellent job getting in and out of that. And to me, it's always an enjoyable experience. And I'm never tired of listening to that music. So like, I might be unique in that way, but I had to put an old school kind of ride that still has like a cool experience. The queue itself is lame, right? But the overall experience while you're waiting.
The vibe of it is like really cool. Yeah,
I dig it. I dig it for sure.
I think that's a good choice. Mine's kind of similar, that it's sort of an older style queue, but I think there's a lot of details in it that set the stage. And if you're not paying attention, you might not notice all the signs and stuff like that. And that's for Big Thunder Mountain. There's just a lot of like signage and little effects going off that really, set the stage for what it is, and that this was an old, like, real working mine area, and like talks, about all the workers and like places they can go and where to get their meals. And so I think, it does a really good job, and there's like different elevations to the queue, which I think always helps too. It kind of give you different views when you're looking out. So I think it's, for those older style kind of just switchback queues, they put enough in there to kind of make it interesting and things to do, and just sort of building the anticipation for the ride well.
No, I think you're 100% right on that one. The first thing that came to my mind when you put this as underrated is the change of elevation. I really like that part. Good detail.
Yep. So that'll do it for our takes. A reminder of our social media accounts. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at the DVC. And our Discord server, please join the conversation. No change to the Disney Comeback Index this week, but the Happily Ever After countdown, we are at 16 days away from the official return of Happily Ever After. And Matt is celebrating with a gif of Pinocchio for tonight. So,
all right. Very nice. So we're going to move on to the topic. I'll introduce this because you, sir, are going to be the main speaker, and I'm just going to challenge your judgment.
Fair enough.
In a fun way. Okay, so you randomly said, I've just planned my next trip to Disney World, and you've picked a hellish time of the year to go. Yep. I've done many trips during this time. I will give basically what it came down to is if you're a Chase Disney Visa card holder, you get a 35% discount. So I'm gonna let you start off by saying what the actual discount is. Is it just the rooms? Is it the packages? How does it work? And how fast did you book it after seeing that discount pop out?
Yeah. So, giving a little bit of background, it started a little bit earlier. I think I shared some of this on Discord, but had a funny story where I was actually using the bathroom and door's locked, and my son knocks on the door, and in like a really serious voice, he's like, "Dad, when you're done, can we talk?" I'm like, "Oh, okay. Some big thing we need to talk about." Okay. So I, finish up and get out, and I said, "Okay, well, Peter, what did you want to talk about?" He looks at me and goes, "When are we going back to Disney?" And meanwhile,
very serious.
Very serious. And then from the other room, I hear the 14-year-old go, "Disney? I like Disney." So I'm like, all right. So clearly they're trying to send me a message. And then at the same time, I'd kind of been feeling like it's weird not having even the thought of a trip kind of to plan out or anything like that. So I probably didn't take a lot of convincing. But then when they announced this discount, which is, it's just for the room, but it's a pretty good discount, better discounts than we've seen, I think, in a while. And it's up to 35% depending on the level of the room, but quite a few, pretty much almost all of the deluxes and even some of the moderates, which included the Port Orleans Resort Riverside, were getting 35% off. For most days, it's between May 14th and September 7th, but there's a couple weeks in there, around 4th of July and stuff like that aren't covered. But then even like some of the values are at 30% off or something, like All-Star Sports. And if you check some of those dates, it brings it down to under $100 a night. So
it's crazy.
It's kind of a signal that maybe, bookings for the summer are a little lighter,
little
soft. But Port Orleans Riverside is definitely one of the ones that we've talked about. Like, it'd be nice to stay there. Our last trip, we took the boat up to Port Orleans, and the kids kind of, everybody seemed to really like the vibe of it. I actually stayed there. I was talking to my mom over the weekend. We did stay there once when I was a kid. It was back actually when it was called Dixie Landings, but she was telling me, like, yeah, and you and your dad went fishing, and like kind of just bringing back a lot of nice memories. So when I saw I was on there, I was like, all right, we were talking about our summer vacations. We sort of have a couple of weeks that we don't have anything planned for. What are we going to do? I sent, Matt Pato, who's I guess now my travel agent, some days. So I was like, all right, what's available these dates? And he kind of came back. It was like, yeah, those dates available. Riverside's there for 35% off, and it brings it down to just over $200.63 a night for, a moderate resort sleeper 5. So all 5 of us fit in there with a woods view. So I was like,
Okay.
you know what? Let's just do it. So, and
Sounds
at
like
the same time, I was also looking at flights and found a pretty decent price JetBlue flight from our local airport. So it's like only a half hour away, really good times that fit with the dates. And we're like, let's just do it. So we booked it there. So we're there for 6 nights from Sunday, August 27th through Saturday, September 2nd at Port Orleans Riverside. And what we decided to do was we're only, because I know you messaged us and the boards are like, okay, well, it's great that the resort's a little cheaper, but the tickets are still kind of the killer. So we're just doing 4 days, no hoppers. So we're going to do 1 day at each park, and we'll actually have some downtime where we're not doing parks. So I was like, I'm going to force myself to have the vacation in the vacation. But
there we go. It's good.
So, I mean, just to give pricing, for 5 of us, all 5 of us, 4 tickets, 4 days of tickets, plus the moderate resort for the whole week is $3,800, which it's not inexpensive, but that seems kind of doable for a family to do basically a week at Disney. It's not outrageous to me.
Well, here's the thing. So the tickets are not discounted. You're still spending, was it $2,500 for tickets for 5 of you for 4 days, right?
Yeah, closer to 3,000, I think. Yeah.
Okay. You basically all you're doing from a normal rack rate, or at least what I paid for back in December, is $100 a night.
Yep.
So they got you back.
Yep.
For a $600 discount.
Yep. Well, I was thinking about as I was doing it, I was thinking of our episode from like a month or 2 ago where we said, what kind of discount is going to make it to come back? And we were talking, it's got to be a whole big package, blah, blah, blah. And apparently it's $600. It's 35% off at Port Orleans Riverside is all it takes to twist my arm and get me excited about planning another trip.
Well, here's the thing. This is a question for everybody in the audience to pester Phil at, either on social media or on Discord, is how long between now and, let's say, July is it going to take for Phil to add a 5th day to that ticket package? Because he's already thinking about it, and it's going to happen. Because he's going to find out it's only going to be an extra like $200, right?
Right.
So that's $600 savings is going
it's going to go away pretty quick.
So quick.
Well, I think it'll actually get eaten up other ways because we've actually been thinking about stuff like there's actually a lot of things we want to do. We want to enjoy the resort. We want to go to other like dining at other resorts that when we're just doing parks like every day, we feel we don't have time to. So I'm already like spent that $600 on meals we're planning to do. So I think that's where it's going to get spent. But I think we're going to stick to the 4 days. But we'll see.
Good for you.
And we could probably pick it up in a future show when we get more into strategy about, which days am I getting Genie Plus and which nights not and stuff like that. But,
so do you want to get into my opinion of Riverside, or do you want to save that for another show? Or we just want to stick this to a financial segment? Yeah,
maybe we'll just stick this to kind of the financials. Okay. I did want to mention just for people that are considering it, because like I said, it is, kind of a pretty good discount, of course, Matt tried to tempt me with like, hey, if you want to splurge, it's not much more to get up to some of these deluxes. But just we did price out some other options just to give people an idea if they are, if there was a resort that's sort of on their bucket list. Just another moderate. Caribbean Beach was $224 a night. Riviera was $469 a night. Contemporary, if you're willing to do the Garden Wing, was $367 a night.
That's nuts.
The Tower Lake View was $505. Theme Park View was $562. Which is crazy, but it's still a lot less than normal. So if you've ever been like dreaming of doing that, Beach Club was $516. So Boardwalk was $395. So if you want to be
tempting.
In that like Crescent Lake area, for under $400 a night, you can do it with this deal. So again, tickets aren't discounted. It's just the room. But if you were thinking about doing like maybe a resort heavy stay and, one of these kind of bucket list resorts, now might be a time to think about it.
What made you go between Riverside and Caribbean Beach? Was it just the cheapest one? That's what we're doing?
So it kind of made it out. It was 35 versus 30% off. And we wanted to just try it. We haven't tried it before. We've heard really good things. We know Christina, that's on the Happily Ever After podcast. That's like her favorite resort. She's always raving about it. And, especially when we decided we're just going to do the 4 days, we thought like a kind of a more relaxing resort that has the boat down to Disney Springs and stuff like that.
Sure,
we thought that was the way to go.
Excuse me, I just sneezed. Okay, so you got you going back. When was the last time you were down in August?
It's been a couple years. That used to be the time we went all the time, and that's when we went when I was a kid. That used to be, I guess it was before the pandemic was probably the last time we were down that summer. But that week, and the reason we usually do that week, which is the very end of August, kind of getting into Labor Day, is where we're from, New York. The schools haven't gone back yet. My kids don't go back to school until after Labor Day, but a lot of the rest of the country, including Florida, the schools have gone back. So the crowd. So for example, I already uploaded my trip into touring plans. They have, I think, for every day, they have them on the crowd calendars, which who knows how accurate those are now, but they have them rated 4 out of 10 for crowd levels those days. So,
yep, that's fair. I mean, we went down the week after Labor Day 2 years ago. The crowds were pretty good, but that was mask mandate time too. So
yeah,
that was a different time. I think you're gonna have a great time, obviously. I can't wait for the episodes to see how we pace out. You pace out your vacation, or how we discuss it, I should say.
Yeah.
How are you going to do like your vacation and a vacation and kind of spread things out? So I'm curious to see.
I think that'll be a big thing because I'm definitely looking at, okay, got to plan around, by then the Halloween parties already be going on. So you don't want to do Magic Kingdom on the Halloween party day. And then, the day off is probably going to be after a late night. So which day is that? So kind of trying to figure out everything out there. So we'll see.
I mean, we're going to go back to my first trip down there as a parent. It was a week-long trip, so we had 5 full days, I want to say, not counting, or maybe 6 days because we had. In any case, we only had 3 park days, and we had all these off days, and I've only just added more and more intensity to every vacation since then. So I can't wait for those conversations to have, and then your eventual trip report to see how you liked it and whether that changes your point of view on, am I really doing too much? So we'll see about that. So because of this, you went ahead and your whole family stole our top 3 segment.
Yeah.
So now each one of your kids has their top 3 things your kids are most excited about for the upcoming trip. Do any of them remember the heat of August? Because I feel like this is going to be the villain of your story.
That's true. We would definitely have to manage that well, and we'll figure that out. So that there might be some negatives coming out of this. But yeah, so a friend of the show, Julie, actually suggested I do this even before I booked this. But when I mentioned about the kids asking about it, they're like, well, ask them why. Like, what is it about Disney that they really like? And so I first started with my oldest, Olivia. She's 14. So she said the number one thing she's looking forward to is riding Tron. She's really excited to get on the new ride.
Okay.
The number 2 thing is just Epcot in general. And number 3 was Fantasmic.
Father's daughter right there.
I know. I was like, the new roller coaster, Epcot, and Fantasmic. So clearly I'm doing something right in how I'm raising her. But it's interesting to see because she's a little bit more introverted and doesn't always have the most confidence, but she seems way more like outgoing and just happy and stuff when she's at Disney. So I think just kind of being at Disney is a big thing for her. So my son, Peter, who is 11, the number one thing he wants to do is he wants to build another new droid. So he has an R2 unit. He wants to build a BB unit. So that's the first thing. I guess that's going to be his big souvenir. He's excited about staying at Port Orleans Riverside. He's just like excited being at a new resort. And we kind of were already watching like YouTube videos of the resort and stuff. So he seems really excited for it. Yeah. And then he said just being there and riding rides in general is he's looking forward to.
My man. That's always the reason. That's sorry for interrupting. That's always my number one reason. It's just being there. Right.
Exactly.
Sign of maturity.
My youngest, Emma, who is 8, she said number 1 is just, and she was kind of shrugging. She's like, going to the theme parks. Like that's what she's looking forward to doing. She's very excited to ride Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind again. And we're all excited that we'll get to go on it without the holiday song. So it'll be our first time riding with kind of the regular songs.
How many times do you want to try to get on this twice?
That'll be the plan. Yeah, we'll try to do, because we'll just have one Epcot day. We'll try to get a virtual queue. And as of now, we're planning to get an individual lightning lane because theoretically, hopefully we'd get 2 different songs and all that sort of stuff, but we'll see.
Okay.
And her third one was because these, the fifth sleepers have the fold down kind of little cot thing that the fifth, where the child says. So her number 3 thing is getting to sleep on the fold down extra bed in the room, which is really interesting.
Gets that?
Well, that's the thing, is that we've already informed her the plan was for Peter to get that. Ooh. So that the 2 girls have the bed that they share.
Okay.
But Emma's like, that's not fair. I want to ride.
Totally
so she
not
listed
fair.
that as her top 3 thing. Her number 3 thing is the thing that, as of now, she's not going to do. So I don't know how we're going to.
It's her top 3.
I know it's in her top 3.
At least she has to have it now.
Yeah. So we said, well, maybe one night we'll do like my wife will sleep with Olivia and I'll sleep with Peter, and she can have that. Or I don't know. We'll figure it out. But it's just funny that the thing, like, she's so like focused on this one thing that we said she can't have. So.
I mean, I think other than Peter wanting to build his droid unit, which there goes your $600.
Yeah.
I think everybody's pretty consistent, right? They just want to go on fun rides and have a good time. So what are your top 3 things that you're looking forward to for this upcoming trip?
So a lot of the things that have been mentioned. Yeah, I know. Wow. So I am looking forward to the resort a lot, and I'm looking forward to trying to do the vacation within the vacation and having some resort time and stuff like that. I'm really excited about that.
For science.
For science, yes. For research purposes only, of course. I'm excited for trying some new dining places. My wife and I have already been talking about, because the flights get down pretty early, and then our one leaves pretty late. So we have like kind of a full day at the beginning and the end almost. So we're planning some dining there too. So we're looking at maybe doing the storybook dining or doing the brunch at Topolino's and stuff like that. So those are all new to us. Okay. So doing some new dining. And then I guess I have to include Tron, and not just the ride, but like seeing that whole area at night and how that kind of transforms Tomorrowland. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, and the music and everything like that.
Yeah, I think if I had to do a top 3 of what I would be excited would be is the park at night. But the only thing is, you have to be careful, not be careful, but you have to set proper expectations, because in August it doesn't get dark until like 8. Right, when you're there, so you're not going to get the full effect of like when you were there in December.
That's true. That's true.
That's the only thing I remember from last time I was there in August. It's just like, I love the parks at night. Oh, it's 9 o'clock already. It's just, the sun's just going down. So, but happily ever after, I think it should be.
Yeah, it was hard for me not to put that in my top 3. I mean, that's definitely up there as well, for sure.
Okay, fair enough. We'll have to get your wife's top 3, I think, and unless that's all. It seems like dining, right? Is some of the things.
I think dining will be a big thing for her, and yeah, she just likes being in the parks, likes being in Epcot, and she's like, oh wait, there will be another festival going on, and like all those sorts of things. So
she's a festival.
I know. So she just likes being there. So, but she likes warm weather. So.
Okay, so our DVC engagement for this week. Thanks your family for helping us with content this week. I thought it was awesome. And thank you for spending more money at Disney World.
Absolutely.
To make that happen. Okay, so last week's DVC engagement, we talked about, again, if money wasn't part of the calculation, which it always is, how long could you spend on property at Walt Disney World before going stir crazy or nuts or bored or wanting to get back? Now, this is not like some fantasy world where you just have a boatload of money and you just go down to the parks and you can just live there, right? You still have a job, you still have family, you still have responsibilities, you still have a house that you have to take care of and grass to cut and all that other type of stuff, right? So it's not just, no other responsibilities, just pick up and go. So how do you want to do this, Phil? Do you want to guess each other's time on property and then go into what everybody else said? Or do you want to guess, talk about ours, and then do the community? What order do you want to go in?
Why don't we do ours this time? I think we did community last time. So yeah, like your idea to guess, and then we'll kind of give our answers and go through that.
All right. So Phil, I'll let you go first if you're okay with that. But okay. I'm going to guess that your longest on property is 11 nights and 12 days.
Okay.
So what is your longest and why?
So yeah, this was a tough one because I don't think I've been anywhere longer than like 10 days or something like that. So it's like yes. I don't do like long vacations. The first number that came to my head was 2 weeks. So maybe a little longer than what you said. I think more than that would be really tough to be away from that long, and just not that I couldn't find things to do at the parks, but I think I would start thinking about, not being there. Like, okay, it's time to, we did kind of everything I want to do, like probably several of them multiple times. And yeah, let's get home. And, we have the cats at home and like just everything like that. So the first number that came to mind was 2 weeks. So whether it's, 12 days, 14 days, but in that range, I would say.
Okay. Fair enough. And then what is your guess for me?
For you, it's probably similar in that ballpark. I think you could probably maybe go a little longer than I. So maybe I'll say like 2 weeks to 16 days, something like that.
That's long.
Yeah.
My longest vacation was like an actual vacation where it wasn't like camping or anything else like that. Was basically 12 days, 12, 13 days for my honeymoon, right? And by the time we started getting to like after that second weekend, because I think we got down there like on a Saturday or Sunday, and by the
Yeah.
time we went through the rotation of all the stuff and got back to the
Yeah.
beginning of the weekly progression, we're like, unlimited booze and food and beach is great, but I'm starting to get like a little restless here. Now, my longest vacation at Disney World was 10 days. We did that.
Yeah.
In
I know you've done a
2019.
couple that were longer than I have.
So, I mean, that was our longest. Everything else has been a week, 5 or 7 days, right? So we did 10 days. And I have to say that as we were in the pool thinking that we have to go home in 2 days or whatever it was about 2 days. We tried to think about what would it cost for us to extend our stay like another 2 days, like through the weekend. I think our last day was like a Thursday or Friday. Like what would it take to get there? Because we weren't ready to leave. Now, the major difference is we were having a vacation within the vacation, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Right. This was our first trip where I bought park tickets for every single day, but we weren't trying to do a million things at the parks. Like we were going into the parks at like 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Dinner and stuff like that and hang out. That's where I realized you can't really just go into the parks at night and come back and it feel like a refreshing day. So I realized if you end the day at the parks, it still almost feels like a full day at the parks because you're getting home late. You don't have time to like relax, right? So that's where I learned that lesson from. I think that after, I'd like to say 2 weeks would be, but I bet it's going to be around to 12 because I'm going to start thinking about work and all this other stuff that's waiting for me when I get back. And I just know that inbox starts piling up, right? That doesn't go away in this question, right? It's like, I know I have all these responsibilities back home and it's just getting worse and worse. So I think I can never go over 2 weeks. Though I think it would be fun to plan as an exercise, Phil, at a later date. What would we do with a 2-week vacation at Walt Disney World? Like 2 full weekends there. I don't know. We go Monday through the next Monday, so 2 full weekends. How would we do that? Because I think you're right. Like I think, there's only so many times you can do like a day at the Magic Kingdom and the day at Hollywood Studios, and like it's just like maybe you're just going in for like a snack at that point, and then why am I spending money on park tickets, right? So like the money question always comes out there. So I think thinking about I think we should do this, and this is not going to happen for a while. But we'll make a note for a future show that as you're planning, we're doing preliminary discussions on how you're planning your 4-park 6-day whatever vacation, whatever we're going to call it. How would you take your strategy and then put that in doubling your time down there, right? So we'll set some rules about how many days at the parks and stuff like that on a 2-week vacation. I think that would be an interesting exercise to actually really start thinking about that. What do you think? Yes or no? Good idea?
Yeah, I think that would, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I think 2 weeks would be really pushing it, and it definitely would have to have a lot of resort time and doing other things around property. I definitely wouldn't be going to the parks every day and stuff like that. But there is a lot to do on property and stuff like that. But I definitely think, once you get into that middle of that second week, I'd be pretty antsy and kind of thinking like, okay, starting to think about when I'm gone and when I'm home and the things I have to do and stuff like that. Like,
I don't think there's enough to do at the resorts to fill in that much time because you're not sitting like, now we're extending this thing. So I'm thinking like I've got a camping trip that we stay in a cabin and like a RV type of, campgrounds. And they've got like a beach area. They've got a pool with a swim up bar. It's really great. We were there last year. And for me to extend my vacation, I need a place where I could just walk out in the morning with a cup of coffee, walk down to like the beach or a pool and just sit there. You really can't do that at the Disney resorts. You can go grab a coffee and sit down, but there's no like lazy. If you go to the parks at any of the Disney resorts, they're going to be packed full of kids. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of little expensive to get all that other. I just don't think it's as relaxing as just like a lazy like beach vacation type of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, I think it's hard to totally relax at Disney because even if you're like doing pool time or doing, if you're at the Poly at the beach or something like that, you're still going to want to schedule activities, like there's things like horseback riding and horse-drawn carriages and things like that, but you're going to schedule your day. And at some point you're going to, I kind of agree with you. It's not just like it's not like where you go to like a beach or the mountain and you rent a house and you can kind of just chill. You know, you're always you're gonna want to fill up your time with things at Disney.
Especially like even though money is not an issue, like we can easily afford 2 weeks at the Polynesian, let's say, right? $700 a night or whatever ridiculousness it is. You're still gonna feel like I'm not doing anything and I'm spending $700 to be here. Like even that's going to affect you unless you're crazy rich and it's peanuts to you, whatever that might be. Let's go over what some of the community was saying. Mama of 6 was saying if we include Disney hotels, resorts as Disney property, she could easily spend a month or more before going stir crazy. I don't think this person is thinking it through. Mama of 6, you're crazy. A whole month. Though I could say that I'm not speaking of Mama 6, but just in general, if I was retired, I think maybe I could do a month. If I have nothing waiting for me at home, no kids, anything else, I think I can probably spend my time anywhere, really. And disperse trips to the parks with lazy days at the pool, lounging at the Poly, the Grand Flow beaches, trying to every dining spot I haven't experienced yet. So this is basically a checklist. I have a month and I have a checklist of all the different experiences to go. I kind of like that thought process. I might be able to do that if it was just me and my wife and not like 3 other kids.
We'll get to some other people where they definitely differentiate the trip with
okay, why don't you take the next one?
Yeah, so Ryan W, I think, said the same thing. Was like, well, with 3 little kids, I would say about 2 weeks.
Yes.
He said they're doing about 11-day trip, and he thinks it's probably going to be pushing that opinion to the test. So we'll see how he does there. And he says anything after 2 weeks, he doesn't think his nervous system could handle that. But then he adds, if it's a couple's trip, then I could say about a month because, you know, he I guess plays golf. So he's like, look, we could go play golf, rent a boat, go to Jelly Rolls, do behind the scenes tours that you can't necessarily do when you have kids and pool time and stuff like that. So I think that's an interesting take, that it might be a little easier to do some of those relaxing things like you were talking about if it's just, you know, you and your partner versus having to entertain 3 little kids and stuff like that.
Yes. TL Madden, our friend TL Madden, says not sure. This will be our longest trip yet, the one that he's about to go on, and only be on property for 2 nights. I'll have a better answer after that, but I'd say about 3 to 4 weeks. Some of these people are not thinking these things through. There are a lot of places and restaurants trying to explore the resorts and have lots of activities, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I want to say, like we said, money is not interference, but like even just dining for a month at Disney World just makes me like cringe. Like that's like so much money for a month at Disney dining. Gino, my trips are usually 7-8 nights. And at the end of that time, I'm ready to sleep in my own bed again, mainly because I'm really exhausted from all the park time. That's another thing that we haven't really talked about is like sleeping in your own bed, right?
Yeah.
Like hotel beds are notorious for being terrible, while Disney beds, I've never had a bad one. But you know,
it's not the same as your own bed.
No, never is. Especially if you're sharing a room with your kids, right? So we didn't preface this like you get to have the best accommodations ever for your 2 or 3 months, whatever. Like, what if you're at Caribbean Beach Resort at a 5th sleeper with 3 kids or 2?
Right.
Like, you're gonna need some space
versus a 2-bedroom villa with your kids can be in like their own little like apartment.
Exactly. Why don't you take the last one?
So this one, is from Herdomaniac.
There's 2 of them actually. Sorry.
Yeah, I think there's 2. So this one says they say they could spend 2 to 3 months easily on Walt Disney World and said they would probably get groceries delivered 2 to 4 times a week. Not a huge fan of eating out for breakfast, and said I would spend my days at the resorts pools to take up most of the non-park time, and they would add boat rides and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know if people I know some people do longer vacations. I work for a European company, so I'm used to my European colleagues going away for like a month at a time.
Yeah.
So I guess if that's just your mindset that you can normally do like month vacations, but I don't know, for me to like double it from like a week to 2 weeks sounds like a lot. So then to go to like a month or 2 months, I think extreme, but maybe other people that their mindset can handle it.
I mean, I think a big portion of this is, you know, if you're retired or not retired, kids or no kids. And then I think if my company would be okay for me just disappearing for a month and somebody else carrying my workload, I would consider it. But again, I don't work for a company that would say, oh, you want to take the next 4 weeks off? Go right ahead, no problem whatsoever. They would definitely have a problem with me doing that for that long. So I don't have that option to even think about that. So that's why 2 weeks for me. But
my problem is it's me. Like like I'm the problem. It's me. Like Taylor Swift said. But it's my company would let me. They're actually I just hit 20 years, so I get an extra 4-week one-time use vacation. They like want me to go away for a month, and I can't.
See, that's good.
But I can't like mentally do it. Where I'm like, even when I'm away, I'm always like checking work and want to stay connected and stuff like that. So. I'm not saying it's a good thing that's how I am, but that's kind of.
Well, I mean, normally I'm the same way as you, right? But like, if my company told me said you need to take 4 weeks off right now, go plan it out, I'd be like, okay, and I won't be in trouble when I don't do this. Really? Okay, if you're giving me
that
permission,
project doesn't go as smoothly as it could have if I paid attention.
Exactly. What's the last one by?
So the last one is from Stitch in Minnesota, saying this summer they're doing 10 nights, which I think might be their limit. It mentions missing their dogs a lot when they're gone. They said if it wasn't for the dog, maybe we could do 2 weeks. And then she mentioned something, different things that her and her daughter have done in the past to do kind of non-park time and relaxing more when they do take longer trips. They said they go on she put in air quotes, adventures, where they go around using Disney transportation to the different resorts to track down the 50th anniversary, I guess, press pennies or coins type things. And they say it might sound lame, but they had a blast, kind of like scavenger hunt type things around property and stuff like that, just to help you explore. So there's definitely things you can do on those down times and when you're not going to park times. But again, it's, that's why I think they're saying 10 nights, not 2 months, because it seems like they need to fill up their time, right? It's like, well, even on our down days, we have to develop an adventure and a scavenger hunt and a mission and stuff like that, which is, I think, probably more how we would be, especially with the kids. So.
I think we got either a 2-week vacation or it's like you're there forever. Like you're not living here. I think those are the two options. We want to say thank you to everybody, and we're appreciative of everybody that kind of jumped in. I think this was a good one. We had more engagement with this one than last week. So you, Phil, came up with this week's TBC engagement.
Yeah.
Why don't you go over it?
So I've been thinking of character meals a little bit in general. I actually just watched one of the Diz group put together one of their dining reviews where I guess it was the first time Craig had ever eaten at Cinderella's royal table. So it's kind of giving me their thoughts on reviews of a character meal. And at the same time, there's been more chatter about, I guess Disney said they took notice of how the fans reacted to even the mention of doing like a Villain's Land. So kind of putting those two things together, I said, the engagement topic is design the character meal that you would have in Villain's Land. So
I have such a good idea for this.
Like, where would it be set? Which would be the villains or the characters that would be at there? What type of food would there be there? So think of all the different elements of if you were creating this themed restaurant with characters that would be set in the Villain's Land, how would it look?
I have such a good answer for this. I can't wait to know. But I won't spill the beans now. I'll refine it in the next week.
Excellent.
All right. I think that'll wrap it up, Phil. Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Make sure you like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, we really appreciate that. And have a good one, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Take care, everyone.